What's going on there, folks? Good evening. It is Earthmaster here. Check it in on the live stream, May 11th, 2021 to date, 6:26 p.m. West Coast time is my time here in California with the latest quake out here around the Philippines island area. 5.7 earthquake striking just south of the region. Pretty good sized earthquake for that area. Go ahead and check out a couple specifics on this earthquake out there in the Philippines area. About 109 kilometers below surface, so a little bit less shaky on the ground above. Of course, if this was a relatively shallow 5.7, things would be definitely shaken on the surface. 109 kilometers tends to calm that down a little bit, but it does specify a little bit dynamics out here and some major movement below the surface there at 109 kilometers. Just south of Manila, got the Philippine Islands everywhere around the region. No tsunami statement with this, of course. Magnitude and the depth has to do with that, but still some sizable earthquake activity taking place out there around the Philippines area. Looking up to the north, pretty quiet activity remains in the Japan area. We did see a little earthquake uptick around that region yesterday. We had a few fours, and I think we even had a lower 5 kicking off up here. Since then, that activity has calmed down dramatically as we scoot our way south towards the Papua New Guinea region, down to some Solomon Islands. Fairly quiet, a couple of 5.4, and a smaller quake just to the east there at 4.9 kilometer or 4.9 on the magnitude at 10 kilometers below surface. If you notice, that 5.4 followed that 4.9, and it was much deeper, 117 kilometers compared to the 10 kilometers over here to the east. So we're seeing some major plate movement as a whole function down below the surface. Fairly shallow 5.7 out here around the Fiji area, east of the Fiji, Samoa region. It's kind of an area that's kind of normally see a lot of deep movement. Today, over the last 24 hours at least, not too much deep movement out there. Most of it's been over here along the west here up through the Philippines. As we make our way to the east here, we did see that earthquake activity strike late last night, early this morning, I guess. 101 kilometers for that deep earthquake there, 5.1 into Mexico region, pretty close to the Mexico City area. The USGS does have this set at a, it's been reviewed. Looks like a few folks reported feeling it. No significant damage or anything like that. Historical earthquake activity in the Mexico area shows the, obviously it's a major plate boundary, and a lot of earthquake activity, including big ones, have taken place out there in years past. South America area, looking at some deeper movement once again. 143 kilometers for that 4.3 and 85 for the 3.8. But down here along the Chile area, another deep earthquake, 111 kilometers along the subduction zone there, Peru-Chile Trench area. Up here along the northern coast here, northwest coast, we did see a little earthquake activity well off the coast of Oregon, past the Blanco fracture zone, a 3.7 at 10 kilometers below surface for their for that specification on the earthquake. Well outside the Blanco fracture zone. Now checking out the activity over the historical region. This takes place outside of that region where we see normal earthquake activity. You can see that on the map here. This only goes back since about 1900 or so, and it only goes recent as 2015. But this 3.7 that struck is in a region where we haven't seen too much earthquake activity, right? Within about 20 or 30 miles or so. Most of the majority of quakes are on the Blanco fracture zone and eastward, southeastward. But this specific activity in an area where it's been relatively quiet over the last 120 years or so. Kind of interesting, that's for sure. Well off there, off the Blanco fracture zone. The all magnitude quakes here does not include anything further off the coast of Oregon. In fact, looks pretty quiet up here along the Pacific Northwest. Just a couple small earthquakes out here along the around the Washington area. 2.0 at 1 kilometer northwest of Mount Rainier. And a couple explosions up there. Not for sure what's going on up there. I hate mentioning explosions on an earthquake update. It just doesn't sound good. Anyway, a little explosional earthquake activity, 1.6 near looks like Bethel, Washington. You can see the depth of that magnitude, negative 0.4. And a little bit of further movement up here west of Seattle, 4.7 kilometers below surface for that 1.0 north of the Seattle fault area. Other than that, remains pretty quiet in the Pacific Northwest, including Oregon, Northern California. Not seeing a whole lot of uptick in earthquake activity. Little 2.1 near Rancho Tehama Reserve in the coastal range as you get into it along the foothills there, northeast of what do we got? Orland, or northwest of Orland, Corning area. Pretty shallow 1.3 earthquake striking that region. Southern Cal looking pretty quiet, looking average for the most part. We are watching this activity along the Garlock fault structure. This is an area that hasn't seen any significant movement in quite some time, and it's an area that could see a pretty good size earthquake, and could be the trigger to the big one along the San Andreas Fault. Let's hope that doesn't happen. Not a good time to get hiccups, but kind of keep an eye on that. Ridgecrest seen just a couple of small earthquakes there on the micro quake level, and we are seeing little earthquake activity ramping up along the Salton Sea area, but more so around the Utah Desert area, south of Interstate 8. El Centro over here sits to the northeast. We're seeing a handful of quakes, about 11 to 12 earthquakes or so in that area. All about, they're variable. The depths of these earthquakes are very variable. But I don't see any specific fault structure that these things are taking place on. Nearest one is the Utah, hopefully I pronounced that right, the Utah Wells Fault over there, about 2 or 3 miles or so to the northwest of that region. Salton Sea, seeing a little microquake activity, but no swarming going on over there for right now. And as we make our way over here to Texas, kind of a big player in the earthquake department right now. Thunderstorms, tornadoes, and earthquakes out there in the Texas area. I don't know if I want to move out to Texas. I love the weather. I love the severe weather, but we bring in earthquakes. It's like, what the heck is going on out there? So some further movement along the linear line out here around the Pecos, Texas area. Roughly about 6 kilometers or so. When I flew back out to Texas, Oklahoma area a couple weeks ago to storm chase, I was talking to a gentleman that worked for the natural gas organization and well injection and whatnot, and he did mention about this area north of Pecos being loaded with well injection and stuff like that. And that's kind of within that vicinity of where we're seeing all that earthquake activity. Not specifically, but kind of within that vicinity. I may go out there and check out this activity, see what's going on out there. There's a couple road networks that do allow me to get somewhat close to the region here, even though it's a few kilometers down. Can kind of look at the structure of the landscape and whatnot out there, and kind of get a good feeling of what's going on. Maybe even feel a couple earthquakes out there. Kind of watching that area, and I may consider that here pretty soon. 3.3 being the largest quake here over the last 24 hours. Other than that, most of it's under 3 for the activity out there in Texas area. Oklahoma seen a couple of fracking, or well, I shouldn't say fracking earthquakes, right? I can't really 100% prove it, but it's up there. A handful of earthquakes up there in the Oklahoma area, south of Oklahoma City. And a little earthquake out here around the New Madrid Fault System, Marston, Missouri, 9.3 kilometers down. Watching this area pretty closely. Start seeing some deep movement out there. Going to be a little on the cautious side. New Madrid Fault area, pretty sensitive, high seismically active area when it comes to producing major quakes. We haven't seen anything in our lifetime, but it's very possible to see some mega quakes out there. Not a good area to see some mega quakes. Tremor. Let's go ahead and check out the tremor department real quick. Yeah, let's see. Have we updated? Yes, May 11th, and it's calmed down. We're kind of working our way up north here. If you noticed over the past few weeks, we've seen a ginormous amount of activity out here along the coastal range of Oregon, basically under the crust of the surface here, about 35 kilometers down dip downstream of the Cascadia. underneath the North American plate today, looking at migration to the north, but overall only 86 epicenters of tremor being reported. Yellowstone National Park, I believe we're still looking at some quiet activity. Not a whole lot, folks. It's eerie, very eerie up here when we don't see any type of swarms, even some small swarms. It should have happened by now, but it just hasn't happened. So not for sure what's going on up there with the dynamics of Yellowstone National Park. All right, guys, have a good night. Stay safe out there, and as always, we'll chat to you another time. Once again, 5.7 out there striking around the Philippines area, and it's pretty deep, 109 kilometers. Looks like they revised it a little bit, but we could see potential earthquake activity ramping up in this region, especially with that deep earthquake that just took place there. So have a good night, folks. We'll chat to you a little bit later. Stay safe.